Yes, you read this title right. About a month ago, I set out on a challenge to see if I could beat Persona 5 Royal in a ridiculous way. This video is going to be a long, detailed explanation of how I went about this, so join me today through my trials and tribulations as I slowly lose my sanity all in HD video. Today we ask, can you beat Persona 5 Royal without attacking? The better question is probably, should you? And the answer to that is a big definitive no. So let this video be a bit of a warning to you all that your time is worth more than mine. But before I go into details, let's set the scene a bit. Persona 5 is a JRPG released in 2016, with the revised edition Persona 5 Royal released in 2020, selling just under 1.5 million copies to date. Now, I'm a massive fan of the Persona series and a massive fan of Your Bud Tevin. If you're watching this, you've probably heard of him. He's the guy who's behind a lot of the challenge videos of Persona 5, and as of writing, is currently trying to reach the max level in the first palace. I'm going to be plugging him a fair bit, so go and check him out for the 7 or 8 of you who haven't already. Now, I've played this game a few times and really know the ins and outs of it. Recently, I found myself with a lot of time in my hands, so after being inspired, I did some digging online to see if anyone had attempted this challenge before. The closest I found was Tevin's video on his item-only run, which he quickly concluded to be impossible as there are not enough items available up to that point to beat the first boss. And that got me thinking. Yeah, he is more than right. Obviously, there is not enough time to craft everything you need, and quite frankly, you could have figured that out from the video size. But one thing that stuck in my mind after watching it was other ways he could go about it. Later on, you gain access to a lot more items in a shorter amount of time, so really, if you can get past this hurdle, he should be fine. My mind then immediately went to, and spoilers when I talk about it later, repel skills. If I could use repel skills, I reckon I could one-up his item-only run with a no-attacking run of Persona 5 Royal, and so I set out to do just that. Alright, the rules of this run. Quite obviously, number 1, no traditional attacks. This includes normal attacks, gun attacks, and any magic skill that inflicts direct damage to the enemy. No showtimes, follow-ups, gun ambushes, and all-out attacks can be used. There is a footnote onto that, I'll be getting to that in a minute. Number 2, attacking the enemy due to being raged is allowed, and that's because of the philosophy of this run. The whole idea of this run is that if I'm not being forced to commit an action, then I have to try to get through it without attacking. In that instance, the enemy is applying rage onto me, it's completely out of my control, and while there'll be instances where we can heal from it, if I'm raged, I'm unable to control the movements on my character, and therefore the attack is okay. When I touch on this footnote in a second, you'll sort of get the idea I'm going for here. Number 3, skills that inflict status ailments on the enemy are allowed so long as they don't do damage. So for example, I can't use Argy with the intention of getting burned, I'm dealing damage in that instance. Number 4, all DLC items and Persona can be used. Number 5, all items and consumables, including those that deal damage, are allowed. And number 6, it's a fresh game, completely new save, no new game plus, nothing carries over at all. And a lot of you are going to be wondering how on earth I'm going to do this without new game plus. You'll see, don't worry. And now this footnote. 2 parts to this. First part, I may use the aforementioned skills in Rule 1 before 418 as the game forces you and there's no way to get around it. The encounters that are optional I'm going to be skipping, but those forced encounters where you have to attack, I'm just going to have to deal with it. And part 2 to that, in scripted fights where I have to perform that action in order to progress, that's allowed. So for example, in Kanashiro's palace, there is a fight where you have to use a showtime attack, the game won't let you do anything else, you have to do that. Stuff like that is okay. Now, I'm sure that footnote on Rule 1 makes a lot of sense, however, a few of you are probably going to challenge me on Rule 5, saying that throwing a Molotov cocktail would at the very least justify assault. I'm going to argue that it's not an attack in the traditional sense, more of a using a consumable situation, something which is entirely devoid of the HP SP costs like that of skills, and where you only have a limited quantity of that you have to craft most of the time. I'll bring up why I'm phrasing it like this in a few minutes, as not an attack, it's pretty essential in order to progress. With that out of the way, one last thing I have to address. Tevin, if you're watching this, I personally would love to see you go for your item-only run again with these allowances. I'm going to be describing the methods I use to, eventually, and a bit of spoilers for this video, complete this run. Straight up, it's possible, and you should review your old video. I chose not to pursue it in my playthrough as personally I didn't want to limit myself too much and have a bit of fun with support skills, but please do get in touch with me if you decide to. I may perform an item only run if this video goes well, wink wink nudge nudge, but who knows. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Persona 5 Royal without attacking. Here we go. Get ready for a whole video of me complaining. So, you've accidentally found yourself on probation for pushing a guy a little too hard and decide you'll never hit anything ever again, in this world's only kind of pacifist run. Well, my friends, have we got some planning to do, but before that, you all know the drill by now, so let's go through the introduction of Persona 5 quickly. Fine dad, go to school, deal with traffic, go to sleep, deal with traffic, but it's horny this time. Get lost, get smoked, awaken to your power, remember the footnote, get out, go to sleep, get in, get Ryuji, get out, go to sleep, find clues, threaten people, go to sleep, don't jump, get in, avoid every shadow, find on, get out, go to sleep, get that good shit, go to sleep, grab a gun, and go to sleep. And that's everything you need to know about the first 4 hours of Persona 5. Now for the Castle of Lust. So the mindset behind what we are doing here is that we want to beat the palace and ideally put ourselves in a good position once we finish it. So we want ways of defeating enemies to keep our progression good while also grinding resources, having a bit of cash to buy everything we need later on, and ideally securing the route all in one day for time efficiency. Enemies give us money through confusion ailments and XP by defeating them or after negotiations. However, the XP is significantly reduced with the latter, so we really want to defeat enemies in such a way that doesn't count as attacking while only using the mechanics available to us in the first palace, and that is why I am relying on repel skills. A persona with repel on an element will reflect all damage of that type back to the attacker and the attacker alone, dealing the same amount of damage they would have dealt you, barring some differences in endurance and the defense stat. This is very useful, or at least it would be. However, the first persona that gets access to innate repel abilities is Hualpo with Repel Fire, who is level 9, which means we can only fuse a level 9 persona when we're at level 9, and because we can't defeat enemies or force them into negotiations without a repel in the first place, we can't earn XP to fuse the repel persona. Fortunately, we have DLC Persona available to us. These are Persona that you can get through the online store, or in my case by pre-ordering the game. They can be summoned free of charge and regardless of level. So, problem solved. Just find someone with a few reflex and you are good to go. So, how many of the 21 DLC Persona have reflex? 6. Not half bad, but thinking ahead, we really need someone to reflect physical damage. The boss of this palace only uses physical and almighty attacks. We are kinda dead in the water without it. So, of those 6, who reflects physical attacks? 0 of them. They all only reflect Curse and Bless, which for this palace is completely useless, except for dealing with Agathon, and I do not want to be grinding Agathon for 3 hours. It was at this point I started to look at actual passive skills that reflect, the ones that stick in your skill inventory, whatever this thing is called. Now, the earliest repel skill you can actually get is from a DLC persona, although you are required to level them to level 22. Now, if you've been unable to tell already, I'm not going to be able to pronounce most of these names, so I'm going to go with this. Kaguya Repel's physical is definitely a goal, however her other version is more than useful right now, as Kaguya Picaro has the passive High Counter, a skill that has a 20% chance to repel physical attacks. She also has Meteoramia, which will be keeping us alive during fights. This is the best we're gonna do for now. So Joker with Kaguya Picaro, and to make sure we don't die, we're going to use the camera strap accessory, which in all fairness is stupidly overpowered. It's basically a better SP Adhesive 3 with healing that scales, and while it's only active when you're ambushing, ideally you're always doing that anyway to begin with. In fights where I'm forced to not ambush, I'm going to be switching to the Warden's Baton, which gives us a 40% increase to HP, a nice way to balance out the level difference. This is by far the most tedious bit of the game, because not only can we only do damage if the enemy uses a physical attack, but only if they hit our MC, and then only if we hit the 20% chance to reflect the attack. And I only found this out when I started the run, you can't remove party members in the first palace, you have to include all 4. And because Royal aimed to patch out a few tricks people have been using in the original game, enemies will run away from fights automatically if you don't deal damage for a few turns. So you have these tiny chances to actually defeat enemies, assuming they don't run away, which means we have to get around these mechanics somehow. Now, remember, we have to take some fights, and unfortunately these so-called forced encounters are just so strong to the point where even with accessories we can't withstand being hit more than a few times. Mainly I'm referring to Kamoshida here, but even Heavenly Punisher is going to be a challenge for us. So to complete this pacifist run, the first thing we have to do when we get inside the palace is Get our friends killed in an ambush. Enemies won't run away when they're ambushing you, meaning that you can keep guarding and healing your main character and get your other party members killed. When we enter future fights, they will all begin with 1 HP, meaning that they will be quickly killed off, forcing all enemies to start attacking Joker. So clearly a pacifist run. That's an interesting thing I noticed here. I swear this game prioritizes attacking your teammates over Joker as a balancing thing. Can someone confirm this for me? I feel like that's the case. Anyways, for the most part, it's smooth sailing. Find fights where enemies will use physical attacks only, guard until you can defeat them, and drop a healing spell whenever you need. West Building 2 is where we gain the ability to hide, and you'll be seeing me do that a lot. Puzzles are always very simple, thief vision and pull some change in the correct order. After crossing a few chandeliers, you will find a locked chest. They aren't too terribly important to grab in this run, as normally they hold weapons for your characters, but I always just grab them in case. Later on, they'll be more important thanks to the consumables they hold. After solving another puzzle in East Building 2, we are given an introduction into Shadow's Pleading, a wonderful mechanic for us early game. We are going to have such a hard time knocking down shadows without being able to attack. This is an easy way for us to gain new persona without having too many resources. Later on, this won't matter for us too much, but for now, every persona I have will make it easier to make a specific persona down the line in their fusion paths. Straight up, I am using an online calculator for this because the fusion system is still a mystery to me. After experiencing the power that grappling gives you, you will find these powerful shadows. Brutal cavalrymen, which are a gold mine for experience to grind yourself up. Each one defeated drops 60 points of XP, and you can respawn these guys by just reloading. Best bit is that they will only use slash attacks and won't escape. Defeating this one guy around 20 times will bring you up to a high enough level to fuse Hao Po, allowing us to now reflect fire attacks when need be. This also gets us really rich, and we won't have to worry about money too much for now. TLDR, this single powerful shadow basically carried us to the required level we needed for this run. It literally took me 2 hours, but it was so worth it. Another reason we did this is because Heavenly Punisher is up next in East Building Annex, and he will flat out kick your ass even when blocking. The extra health we now have allows us to easily survive these attacks with a good buffer, meaning we don't have to heal as much because we aren't regenerating SP, as this is a forced encounter. His cleave also does extra damage as he is charged up beforehand, so when high counter does trigger, the fight becomes a breeze. If you can somehow get out of this fight with your party members alive, it's also a good way to get a few more levels onto them. Not too important right now, but still it's XP. After 4 or 5 reflex, the Punisher is down and we can move on to the tower. Avoid this mess completely and grab your will seeds. I grabbed the last 2 off camera, but this one here you have to fight the Taunt King of Desire. He is a big fan of Arn and physical attacks, but after having your party knocked out, it just becomes a game of guarding and healing until high counter triggers. He does have a heal skill on him, although it is a very small heal, and his assault dive out damages that heal anyway, winning us the fight. Following that, the last real challenge is grabbing the keys from the powerful shadows, the War-Hungry Horsemen. While doing physical attacks, skills that deal multiple attacks only reflect once and generally do less damage, and Double Fang is just damn dangerous. After that, the infiltration route is secure. All of that achieved with only 1 DLC persona and pressing the guard button for many hours. Now, as much as I would just love to send the calling card straight away, we have a bit of a problem. Kamoshida's boss fight consists of himself doing physical and almighty damage, which is great because we can reflect the physical attacks. However, as soon as you lower his health, he'll start healing with libido boost so long as the Trophy of Obsession is out. Unfortunately, the trophy doesn't attack, and we have no way of dealing damage to it by any means. As such, this is why I've allowed items that do damage in this run. I'm not counting them as traditional attacks. The trophy has 900 health, meaning that we need 18 50-point damaging items in order to destroy it. Fortunately, we get a lot of items from the DLC I have installed. However, we will need more anyway for later down the track, and that's why we're going to be buying up all the materials we can from vendors around the town in order to craft the items needed. In this run, you will find that Molotov cocktails are extremely useful thanks to the burn they apply, which deals damage in accordance to the enemy's health. These things will be scaling the entire run. And don't worry too much, it's not like I'm using these items willy-nilly, as later on down the track there are going to be some very beefy bosses that have incredible amounts of HP that we can't reflect. So an item saved now is an item earned later, and we aren't using them in situations where we don't have to. After a few days of crafting materials and upping proficiency whenever possible, along with some SP and HP items bought, Kamoshida is now ready to be tackled. For the sake of efficiency here, I immediately begin by letting my friends die so that physical attacks can be targeted towards me. When the trophy becomes targetable, I immediately spend my turns damaging it. Unfortunately, you can't inflict status ailments on most bosses, so we are just doing pure damage here. That's a good and bad thing about these items. As long as they don't block, drain, or completely nullify them, they will always deal the damage listed on them regardless of effects. After hitting it for many minutes and taking it down, Kamoshida will start using his kill shots, which are heavy almighty damage. Fortunately, we can guard through these, and after a few attacks of these from Mishima and Shiho, Kamoshida will dismiss them completely. Normally this is where you'd go for the crown, however there is another way to end this. For the rest of the fight, Kamoshida only uses his golden knife attack, which deals reflectable physical damage. So I decide to simply guard and heal for the rest of the fight, whittling down his 2000 health till eventually defeated. So for those wanting to do an item only run of this game, using passives like High Counter is a viable option. This is one of the more tedious bosses of this run just because it does take so long and you're really just waiting for High Counter to go off, but that doesn't mean this won't be getting any harder. For now, however, the spare time I now have went into upgrading my social stats, crafting more items and hanging out with Ryuji and Takemi. Ideally, we would level these up as soon as possible. Ryuji for his insta-kill, as the rules of this challenge allow it, technically it's an ambush, and Takemi for ointments. When we get the option to work on Kawakami as well, we will be taking that to rank her up as soon as possible to craft more things and save time. And Maruki as well for his detox ability, which will come in handy. A lot of this is just about time efficiency and preparation. Finally, after all that, we unlock access to mementos, but we won't be going there until we level up a bit more. One of the things you'll notice in this run is that it does get easier the more mechanics we unlock. Madarame's Museum of Vanity offers us some very good advantages starting from now. Not only can we finally ditch our party members and get them to earn XP by surviving in the backline when we do get Yusuke, but persona traits are unlocked. This is spectacular and another reason why I chose Kaguya for this run, as she now has a trait which triples any reflected damage. It's so good, and these two changes alone will make this palace a lot quicker to get through. But to first ditch our party members, we do have to go through the palace a little bit to unlock Yusuke. So first on the order of business is to get our friends killed so that we can take winnable fights for the XP. Straight up, there isn't too many here, so a lot of this palace was just avoiding fights. The first exhibition room sees us avoiding everything. I accidentally ended up in a fight being spotted and realized my mistake very quickly. Shinji Oki is very annoying to deal with, and on any other run I would have him in my party no doubt, but here we are. In addition, the treasure demon introduction in the second exhibition room features Sisha, which because we can't really block nuke skills was a pain. But more annoying than that, we can't take the treasure demon regent because we don't have any Scion nuke items yet, which if we would be a really easy way to level up, but I digress. At any rate, I grabbed the will seeds. I must be honest, in retrospect, I didn't end up having any real need for any of the will seeds, but I grabbed them just in case. All except for Madarame's, as his absorb against any attack is very good on Morgana as a way to protect and heal an ally in one turn. Action economy and all that, it's just really good in any situation. The real challenge starts to rise when we get to Yusuke. The security shadow ain't too bad to deal with, but just be warned, you are forced to have Ryuji in this fight and he starts throwing away my money, which was very annoying thanks to Skullcracker. If you can reflect twice, the fight is very easy. Another reason we are sticking with Kaguya for this run arises, she blocks Curse and Bless. As a very general rule of thumb in this game, enemies that use Bless and Curse skills generally just block them completely when you try to reflect them. So there is kinda no point to get the respective reflect skills for those elements, so I'm not going to bother about them. Yusuke's introduction fight is a relatively relaxed one thanks to the rage skill on enemies, which forces us to attack and is not in breach of this run's rules. So guarding and waiting like always, Kaguya's skill to triple reflect damage is coming in really handy here, even though it's only still a 20% activation. We are really wanting to level up Kaguya to get the passive repel physical, which will naturally make the reflection happen 100% of the time with triple damage, but that won't happen in this palace. At any rate, we get Yusuke, which means we can finally dismiss our party members from active combat, which is so useful. The rest of this palace is pretty uneventful from here, aside from a few forced encounters where you have to wait for reflex or use a Molotov or two, but otherwise a relaxing trip to the treasure, minus the Monk of the Valley fight, who just loves nailing my party for some reason, but a few Jack Daniels later he is taken care of. At any rate, let me quickly sum this up. We have the painting puzzles, which aren't hard once you know where to go. Fortunately, they are the same as in the base Persona 5 game, so nothing too challenging about them, just a time killer. Then we have the distortion. This part revolves around fighting the real paintings of Sayuri. Again, it's a case of I've played this game before, I know what the real thing looks like, but liberal use of third eye will reveal hidden passageways that are essential to these puzzles. Main treasure hall is the last one, and it has me climbing upstairs with a will seed fight that I can't reflect against. Otherwise, we are all good a few VBs later. With the treasure route secure, I head back to the real world to get straight to crafting. The real issue, and this will be a trend for the rest of the run, comes with how we handle the palace's boss, Madarame. His first stage gimmick is definitely the most worrying thing. These paintings will revive one another with a quarter health, so you have to kill them all at the same time to avoid this, and we can't really rely on Kaguya for this fight. The mouth blocks physical attacks, and the nose will use magic skills of fire, ice, electric, and wind, which we can only repel some, and we have to guess them in advance, and the other paintings just don't attack. However, there is a saving grace to this fight, and I'm not talking about the special order in this fight, I'm talking about the Sunday shopping channel. On May the 22nd, the channel sells the Outdoors kit, granting 3 blowtorches, 3 dry ice, and 3 magneto coils, all dealing 50 damage of their respective elements to all enemies. This is 450 effective damage at the same time, which just means we save so much more in the way of resources. Now, there is one issue to all this, that being the painter's eye. It does drain fire, ice, electric, and wind, and up to this point we have no way of dealing damage to this part of the boss as we can't craft psycho and nuke attacking items. Fortunately, however, Madarame's boss fight provides a little helping hand. In this stage of the fight, Madarame uses Artist's Grace to make one character in your party weak to all elements. After he uses this twice, you get a special order to apply the effect onto him, removing the drain effect on the eye and allowing you to kill the paintings all at once. His second stage is just a really big grind. By attempting this fight nearing the end of the month, you should ideally have enough items to take down Madarame and his 2500 health bar. Ideally at this point, you should also be able to survive his copies and their attacks, even if they hit weaknesses, but do come into this fight with a few healing items. This will take you close to an hour, but by the end of it, Madarame will be defeated. To make sure I didn't get knocked down in this fight, I also switched to Izanagi Umano Picaro when I was using all the items. This is pretty much the only battle where he is actually useful. At any rate, this fight is a massive boost to our party members' XP, which is something we have to now start worrying about. The real challenge with this palace just comes with having enough proficiency and time slots in order to craft everything you need. To help me with this, one of my time slots I did spend in mementos collecting resources, namely just materials found in boxes, as Molotovs can be made with just them alone. By this point in the run, my proficiency was now up to level 5, and with Kawakami leveling up quickly, I was now being more efficient with my night slots. While this palace was a hassle, the next 2 fortunately are relatively relaxed. After killing time with confidence and a few mementos grinds, we start the next area. Kanashiro's palace is a pretty relaxing time, minus the first infiltration and its forced fights. However, before that, I did do 2 things. First of all, I unlocked Yusuke's confidant to grab his skill card duplication, which will be very useful later on. Second thing, during my mementos trips, I started to itemize normal Kaguyas to produce some unique protectors. It's unlocked at this point of the game, the itemization ability. These protectors only female party members can wear, but they have a high chance of repelling any physical attack. Don't let that fool you, the high chance is just a normal high counter, it's only 20%, but it does help in speeding up these fights in the Bank of Gluttony. Which is really needed because Chivalrous Fiend, a shadow which is strong against physical attacks, is coming up as a forced fight in waves, 3 to be exact. So there is a lot of guarding as always and just waiting for high counters to go off. After half an hour of waiting for these counters to go off, these guys are dead. Unfortunately, the next fight, which is Makoto's Awakening fight, includes a Mad Water Demon which is immune to any attack we can reflect, so Molotov cocktail when need be to burn the guy down. Fortunately, by this point, we should have a lot of those. After leaving, I do spend the next day reading the ABCs of Crafting, a book which doubles the craft time slots we get thanks to our proficiency boosts. On a rainy day, I am now able to craft 13 items or have Kawakami make 7. Needless to say, it's really good. Then it's back again to the palace through a secret passageway, and after being forced to use Anne and Morgana's Showtime due to a tutorial fight, I use Hualpo and Ipondatra to reflect wind and fire attacks back at enemies Ascended Feline and Equine Sage. I learnt that I have to do this in a relatively shocking way. Up ahead, the forced fight against the 4 Equine Sages in the security room does require you to beat them, and Hualpo easily does. This fight is actually really satisfying, just watching all the reflects go off. Down in the Baker passageway, we have another forced fight against Chivalrous Fiend, which isn't too worrying, but the slimes we have to fight definitely kill a lot of time. After snagging a Will Seed, we have to enter the vault, which requires us to fight 2 demons. Tornado Devil is the first forced fight that blocks any wind attacks we reflect, so Molotovs are used, while Water Demon makes a return for this fight again. Again, use your Corona bottles when you have them, hopefully you just don't get frozen. Interestingly enough, this guy runs out of SP very quickly, so it's not too bad. As always, this bloody hallway bit is the biggest hassle. Most of it's just hiding and waiting for cameras to go off. This is the only palace in the game that features these types of timed cameras, so we don't have to worry about them after. There is a Will Seed, however, snuck through a vent and some grappling bits, so make sure you're looking out for that. The final force fight of this palace is a bit of a nuisance, but again, Molotov for the most part, as this Holy Trinity has nothing that can be reflected. Getting into the underground vault, we unlock number pads with the pages we find, easily securing us the route to the treasure and the final Will Seed in this fight. However, before we leave this palace, I want to talk about Defeated Avenger, a strong demon you can find in one of the rooms. He attacks with physical and electric and can go down very easy with a few reflex. This shadow is amazing as he drops 700 experience per defeat. So I take an hour and grind from high counters to kill this man a lot. After all of this grinding, we will never have to worry about high counter again, which is the best feeling. Why do I say this? That's because level 26 is the minimum requirement to fuse everything you need to bring the Strength Confidant up to level 5. This Confidant unlocks the ability to be able to fuse higher personas for a fee, growing exponentially with each level above you want to fuse. Basically, we can pay for a Reflect physical persona, the earliest being Ara Huckabee, which is strong against Curse and Bless, preventing insta-kills, but also repels physical and gun. To add on to that, it has double Reflect damage thanks to its trait, can apply Despair to all enemies, has Endure in case I really mess up, and can create a magical barrier in front of any party member. Was it worth the 70,000 yen I paid for it? You betcha! This thing is amazing and it's going to carry us the next boss fight, and it also means that my time in these palaces just shortened by 80% thanks to me not having to gamble on a 20% chance to reflect every enemy turn. We are going to switch back to Kaguya at the moment she can reflect physical, as tripling damage is better than doubling it, but for now this is more than satisfactory. Now, this boss fight coming up has 2 phases. Piggytron, his first phase, every turn will enter Super VIP form if not already, and then perform March of the Piggy, an almighty attack that will pretty much wipe your party. He will keep on doing this repeatedly until you perform the special order in this fight, which is all about sacrificing an item to give to Kaneshiro. With the more valuable the item, the more likely he is to waste his turn grabbing it. So give him the most expensive option just to be on the safe side, and this will stop him from using March of the Piggy for the rest of the fight. His moves will now start using a fire, gun, and physical, so Ara Huckabee and his Makaran will allow you to reflect back damage at him during his first phase. Morgana and Makoto can help keep your team alive with media and support skills while you whittle away at his health. Madarame's ring is a very useful accessory in this fight, as it's a way to protect and heal low health party members for one action. Again, action economy, really good. When you defeat Piggytron, you now have to deal with his 2 minions. The Hitman and the Bodyguard will attack you, although can be easily reflected. The Bodyguard will also guide Kaneshiro through this fight, meaning you can't hit him with anything until he is dead. The easiest way to do this fight is to therefore wait for your team members to die and just reflect all the attacks coming your way. Straight up, you can't get damage with Ara Huckabee in this fight, making this the second safest fight of the run. Also, Kaneshiro in this fight can actually be burned, which I didn't expect, but makes this a piece of cake. You can also reflect his snap attacks, but he will only use them when you are sleeping, and Detox does make this a bit harder admittedly, so I opted to just use items on this fight, which at this point, thanks to Ryuji's insta-kill, I have very many materials. With Kaneshiro defeated and our bank account sufficiently depleted, I did a quick run in mementos, crafted more items, leveled up confidants, most notably Yusuke and Kawakami, and laid back a bit. Fortunately, there is not too much set up for the next palace, so I enjoyed this break from constant planning and preparation, or while I could, that is. Ironically, the Pyramid of Wrath is the oasis of this run. It's really chilled with not too much going for it aside from banger tunes. There is so little to mention here that this will be the shortest section by far. Futaba's Palace features a lot of enemies with Bless and Curse skills, both of which we nullify, and only one, arguably two tough forced fights. So after the initial infiltration and almost getting flattened, the next day I come back to handle this palace and find the stolen map in the neighbouring town. Thanks to us now holding our Huckabee, we can now despair enemies, which is really useful as despair makes enemies succumb in 3 turns whilst not being able to perform any attacks, all the while not being an attack technically. So while you argue that making enemies off themselves is an attack, I'm just going to let you know now that we're only really seeing it be used in this palace and the next. You'd be surprised how many enemies are immune to it, most notably enemies in forced fights. To get back the map, we must tackle the Raging Bird God, who uses only wind attacks, which he is immune to. In hindsight, we now have elemental break skills, which would have allowed me to reflect wind. This is something that will be coming up a lot in the casino, but for now, I completely forgot and decided to waste items on him. Not the biggest loss, but still something I would change if I did another run of this. Falling back down in the pyramid now, we get some good cardio exercise and climb our way out of this room to take on the Coffin-born God, which gives us the first real worry of this palace. Turning into a mouse sucks. You pretty much just lose your persona, their abilities, affinities, stats, everything is gone and you are totally defenseless, so get smacked. So burn and stun items are the best way through this, along with a full party and Madarame's ring as always. To finish the underground corridor section, we are just required to find the correct buttons to open the right doors. The Chamber of the Sarcophagi contains many more door puzzles and introduces the gem puzzle mechanics. Most of Futaba's Palace is more about puzzles than anything else, which does make this pretty easy. There is one long corridor where we have to open up gradually by completing that section's puzzle. The Chamber of Rejection is up next, and it has an interesting mechanic with its gem puzzle, that being it curses you, spawning enemies and preventing you from taking certain routes. But once you find the right place for the gem, it's pretty easy. There is also a will seed hanging around here, so after yoinking that, it's on to the first hieroglyphic puzzle, which haven't changed from Persona 5 so I don't look like a fool on video. After that, we enter the Chamber of Guilt, which I definitely didn't lose footage from, but it involves a simple binary puzzle to not only progress, but grab another will seed. Finally, the Chamber of Sanctuary is definitely the most confusing bit just because I can't remember where I've gone, but you grab these gems, avoid getting spooked, and create new light bridges to reach the end. There is also our final will seed fight against Aliat, who I was planning on making for its amazing resistances initially, but decided against it later on. This fight we can't reflect anything, so it's just his turn to make him burn. Having secured the route, the Velvet Room now offers us a new tool, the Gallows. The Gallows allow us to sacrifice our persona to level up another. This means after summoning a regular Kaguya and sacrificing the highest level thing we have, we can finally get a repel physical passive on Kaguya. Triple damage physical repels will be amazing. We also get Diorama, which will help us in not dying, but we are starting to reach a point of near invincibility anyway. The Gallows will also come in handy because we will be locking down some persona to gain repel skills. To get repel skills from lockdown, that persona has to be between levels 63 and 74, so we will have to level some up prior. The little bit of planning I did do for Futaba's boss was done in the Velvet Room. Wakaba Ishiki only does physical and wind damage the whole fight, so after saving Kaguya into my compendium, I fuse her into Kumara Tengu by combining her with Belphegor. Kumara will now reflect all attacks Wakaba will perform, so this fight is stupidly simple. So simple, in fact, I got way too relaxed and didn't record the bloody thing. Legit, I'm writing this right now to have found this out, and I am livid. The whole thing was just me reflecting so much attacks and damage. It was amazing, especially with her charged up ones, and I can't show it. There was 2,000 damage hitting her at one point. Fortunately, this isn't too much of a big deal. This was by far the easiest fight in the run, but I am so beyond mad. Please believe me, I really tried to get the footage back, but it just isn't there. After defeating her, we escape the palace, and for the 25 days of free times I now have, I spend it upgrading confidants. I do a fair bit of team members' social links just for later on down the track, as during some of the boss fights I may be unable to keep Joker alive, so I'll be relying on them sacrificing themselves for me. It's not like we haven't been sacrificing them anyways. We also start working on Hifumi for her escape abilities, extra gold, and party member switching. This last one is going to be so important in a couple of palaces down the track. Straight up, Hifumi is incredible in this run. I also do Chiaya for some reason, I can't remember. I believe it was for fusion alarms and social stat boosting. I also do a Ketchi, but that was mainly because I wanted to see if I could beat him at rank 8. More on that in a bit. Also, Takemi gets her confidant finished, meaning we get ointments, and I finish off Yusuke for good measure. But calm before the storm. All of this was really easy, and considering it a ton of social scenes are right after this point, it did soften me up a bit for what was about to come. So now, buckle yourselves in for the longest section after the shortest, for the horror that was the Spaceport of Greed, and the story of the godly Magmata. But before that, let me just say a little something. So clearly by this point, if you're still watching, you are enjoying the challenge run. I had a blast trying to get through it all, and quite personally, I would love to do more things like this. So please, if you are enjoying this video, consider letting me know down below in whatever way you wish to show it. If this video does well, I plan on tackling some other runs of this game on livestream, or even just some other games in general. Persona 4, Divinity 2, Baldur's Gate 3. I must admit, I now want to do an entire run of XCOM Enemy Unknown where I only use pistols or maybe only explosives, or attempt to win a game of Stellaris without building a single ship. It's the kind of stuff I live for, so if you want more of this, consider subscribing. Thanks, and I'll get back onto it now. So, good news, this part first comes with some new toys for us to play with. We can finally access shady commodities by repairing the broken laptop. We now have the ability to buy magmatas that deal 150 damage. We can only buy one of each type every few days, but we get on this straight away to build up our stockpiles. Trust me, we are going to need an inventory with some good damage potential. At first, we can only buy fire, ice, electric, and wind types, but we unlock nuke and psi options as we spend more money. You need to buy these every chance you get for this bit of the game, but you really should be buying these items for the rest of the game completely. Secondly, this palace features the introduction of Haru, basically the best party member for this run thanks to her moveset. Full party ailment heals and the ability to pull up physical and magical barriers on party members. She gets even better later on, but let's focus on actually getting there first. She's a mainstay in this run though, so expect to be seeing a lot of her. Enemies in this palace really love to be immune to everything. Fortunately, most don't resist despair in this one. The enemies that do resist despair are the robots we will be seeing in many forced fights. These guys use physical and gun skills, which primarily means we can reflect a ton of them. Unfortunately, some of them have the skill Recamdura, which at the cost of lowering their own HP to 1, fully heals all enemies. For now, it isn't too bad. Haru's awakening fight sees us battling her fiancé, and it's very much just a slog of waiting for the smaller robots to get damaged, heal everyone, then reflect their next attack. Kaguya does a lot to help us here thanks to her persona trait. We will be improving her soon to be unstoppable. Facility Passageway is the first main area containing some enemies that I decided to take care of just to grab some XP, but also grab some item drops, as these are the first set of enemies that drop red phosphorus, liquid mercury, and tan leather. Here we also grab the first will seed and find out we need to grab an ID card to progress to where we need to go. So for now we head into the barracks to defeat these mini boss enemies in forced encounters. The first fight against Corpobot MDL-AM is simple, although the fight contains these worker bots that heal all enemies with their Recamdria skill, so it's just a waiting game as we reflect the physical and wind attacks. Afterwards, I use the 150 damaging Magmatas to finish him off fully. Remember this, it'll be coming up later. Corporobot MDL-DM is the next fight, which we see 3 worker bots. In this fight, we reflect the worker bots and the DM's physical attacks, with the worker bots healing everyone up. However, the thing is with this fight is that this DM character will keep summoning in more worker bots which continue to heal them. Eventually, for some reason which I can't find anywhere, he will eventually stop summoning worker bots, which fortunately allows us to kill him with items quite easily. It's weird why this happens, but for whatever reason it doesn't seem to be the case in the final fight with the director. He attacks with physical damage, has 4 worker bots that will attack and heal as normal, but he will continuously call for backup the entire fight if he has no worker bots out, and this will happen forever. The way I overcame this fight was to wait for him to get low by waiting for his reflections, but not so low that the bots wouldn't use Recamdria. After gathering the correct ID card, you enter this open area, the facility surroundings, which after probably the coolest grapple in the game is a simple walk to the export line, where we avoid these shadows to access the consoles of large assembly arms in order to cross. There is also a wheel seat here that I completely missed at first but came back later for it. The production line also expands on this concept a bit by adding timed pathways that you need to quickly run to get to while also avoiding shadows. It's really fun and really annoying at the same time. Here you activate a timer to knock down an arm, to activate another timer to then progress to the next area. It's a very similar puzzle in the final area, the disposal line. Considering we've been getting really good at avoiding shadows this whole game, these areas puzzles are pretty easy. At the end, however, we have to fight 3 waves of 5 copies of MDLCH. They are very simple to take care of, they just debuff you, and if you're already debuffed, they'll just attack you, which you deflect. However, when there's only one left, their next move will be summoning in a worker bot, which naturally will perform a heal if you're not quick enough. So grab your aviation gin when you need to get past each of these waves, and you should be fine. You also get a ton of experience from this fight, by the way, like, a ton. I honestly didn't think you'd get this much. If I had known that in advance, I probably would have tried to get my party members in this fight, but whatever. We then enter the most infamous puzzle in this game, the airlock puzzle. It's annoying and I'm going to be speeding through this, but pretty much it's a matter of getting to a bit you can reach, flipping the switch that is probably there, going back to the area you're just in, and then going somewhere new. I'm not going to bore you with it, but there is a wheel seat fight here, and just, look at the damage I'm doing right now. With that infuriating puzzle done, we've pretty much done it. A few steps later, we secure the route to the treasure and prepare for Akumura's boss fight. Quickly, before I went to send the calling card, I just did some investigation on the wiki to see the stats of these enemies. See, the gimmick with this fight is that it has 7 waves of enemies it will send at you, all of which you must defeat within 30 minutes. Now, that 30-minute timer isn't important. Half an hour is more than enough to deal with everything. The thing is, Royal updated this fight from the original game, so that the first 5 waves are all waves of the same enemy that progressively get harder. So you start out with the worker bots and work your way up to the general managers. Thing is, you have to kill these enemies within 2 of your turns, otherwise they will flee and Akumura will summon more, meaning that you now have to face a fully refreshed, fully healed wave again, having just wasted time. Now, this isn't too bad, we have quite good items and can reflect physical attacks, which means this should be pretty easy, and indeed, the first 2 waves can be really easily dealt with. Reflects do nice damage and we have hit all items, so dealing the 250-300 damage we need to isn't a problem. However, the 3rd wave brings these red guys that use magic, which can kill my party members easily through 1 Mors and can be set to self-destruct by Akumura, killing everyone else that manages to survive. This isn't particularly helpful as we kinda need everyone alive for the damage output we desire, but eventually I get a really nice lucky run where a good chunk of my party is alive, so I deal the 350 damage needed to kill these bots, but they don't die. I'm really confused at this point because I did the math and worked out that I had plenty of items to carry me through this fight, let alone this wave. I realized that all the planning I did was for naught. The wiki is wrong. The health values in this fight are more, and I know why they got it wrong as well. These health values are for the mini boss fights we did a little bit back, not the final boss of this palace. Someone has copied and pasted these numbers in, and it kills me because now I have no clue on how to beat them. Even if I get past this wave, I still have 2 more waves of much harder enemies that have even more health that isn't recorded on the wiki. So being sufficiently spooked, I preemptively put out a call for help on the r/Persona 5 Discord, explaining the challenge run I was doing and asking for any ways people could suggest on how I beat this fight. So straight up, a massive thank you to anyone in the Persona help channels around that time, but I want to thank 2 people in particular for helping me through this whole run and giving me some good ideas on how I can progress. They are Lotion and Galax, who without I would have given up by this point. So a big thank you to both of them because they are the reason you are seeing this video. So, 3rd wave, there is a pretty obvious solution here. We have to get a persona that can reflect everything they could possibly use. Fire, ice, electric, wind, psi, and nuke repels on a Kaguya to maximize damage to put them down. So, I hopped into Mementos, put on a show, and did a massive grind, getting everything I need to make a repel or Kaguya. This included fusing a ton of new personas for itemization and lockdown to eventually end up with this magnificent beauty. Even better yet, I am not joking here, I didn't re-roll. I ended up getting Taunting Aura on my first fusion, a skill that forces enemies to target Joker exclusively. Even in the Okumura fight when he sets a new target on your party, this overrides that. I got so insanely lucky. So with this new persona, I took on the Okumura fight again, now turning the game onto hard because I realized I was still on normal, and honestly I should have done that from the start, and got past the third wave. So with that handled, I immediately got my ass kicked by the fourth wave, who had a lot more health in this fight. So let's go over maximizing damage potential in this boss and plan for the fifth wave. So, offensive items in this game come in a few flavors. You have craftables that do 50 damage to a specific enemy, consumables that you can buy on the shopping channel and the 5-inch nail that does 50 damage to everyone, magmatas you can buy online that do 150 damage to one enemy, and finally an almighty craftable that does 100 damage to everyone. So assuming you hit weaknesses and get your 1-mores to a group of 4 enemies, you can pump out a maximum of 550 damage per turn through 150 magmatas followed by a Megalio bomb at the end. Now because of this fight exclusively, one of the robots is always sacrificed by Okumura with executive order, meaning we can, instead of using a 150 damaging magmata on him, use a 50 damaging hit all item to get the 1 more and cause more damage. In total we can deal 600 damage the first turn, 550 in the second, for 1150 damage all up. Knowing that I had to beat the fifth wave anyway, I didn't worry about the fourth wave and instead grabbed the true health values of the fifth wave by reviewing some gameplay footage online. And guess how much HP they have? 1300! Ouch. A bit shy of the 1150 damage we can do, but fortunately those numbers didn't account for reflect damage, so we are all good so long as we reflect back at least 150 damage. So what do I need to do to beat this final wave? Simply 6 godly magmatas, 8 megalio bombs, and a 5-inch nail. Now at this point I had secured the route very early and I still had a ton more days to get the godly magmatas, which means it was time to grind in for the materials needed for the bombs. So after a lengthy grind, which I'm just going to real quickly fly through, I crafted the bombs, but here is the thing. On the 10th of the 3rd, you are forced into Kasumi's Persona Awakening. This is great and all, tells us about the new palace, but you lose your time slots that day. You even lose the ability to craft and shop online. This means that the whole thing I'd been planning for, I was out by a day. I didn't have enough magmatas. Alright everyone, I'm going to leave this now because if I couldn't beat them in 2 turns, that means I'm going to have to rethink my strategy here. So I'll be back later on once I've had a cry. Interestingly enough, however, I had enough blast magmatas though, 6. And because you unlock them at the same time, I should have had the same number of godly magmatas. So I reviewed all the footage to figure out what had happened. Oh no. Yeah, that's right, I used one beating a mini-boss. When I used it, I didn't realize it was going to be the most important item in the run. See, I was used to going back and losing progress in this run. You mess up, stuff happens. But my lord, I was not ready to have to rewind all the progress I just made. All the grinding of materials and money, all the crafting of bombs, slogging through days to buy the magmatas, making the perfect reflect persona, all to realize that I had lost 10 hours just because I used an item here. So I reloaded the save and lost all of that progress, having to go through Okumura's palace again, beating the mini-boss with a different magmata, dealing with the puzzles, securing the route, going on a massive grind for items and materials to craft the bombs and fuse my Kaguya again, having to keep reloading saves until I got Taunting Aura, which took at least 2 hours alone, and then finally we got back to the fight. And you know what? It was worth it. Seeing this wave's HP finally go down was the best release of pent-up rage I think I've ever experienced. These guys caused so much stress and I really didn't believe we were going to get past them. After that, there are 2 more enemies, both of which don't have a time limit to beat, so we just reflect attacks and throw stuff at them, you get the gist. After that, we kill Okumura with a bottle of rum and finally have finished this godforsaken palace for real. Then he actually dies and the rest of the game continues. Alright, fortunately, back to an easy time now, a real quick one. So after Okumura's palace, I leveled up Haru and that's about it. She's going to be beyond amazing in the final palace. I did a little bit of Sojiro's Confidant as well, just for some better SP heals. Up to this point, we haven't really been needing them. They're going to be useful for every boss fight after the next one, however, as they will be extremely long and I'll be spending them all on my healers. Bought more items online because we will need them as well. We are going to need a lot of damage potential in the upcoming battles. After being blackmailed to infiltrate Sae's palace, we pretty much immediately proceed to Akechi's introduction fight, which, thanks to our new Kayuga, is a breeze. Taunting Aura is going to allow us to more safely have party members in fights. Then, after getting kicked out, I go on a quick mementos trip for some materials and head back to the Casino of Envy straight away to find a members card in the staff only area along with the first will seed. The force fight against Ganesh is easy as his only moves are physical attacks and rebellion. This allows us to get to the members floor without any trouble. The gimmick in this area is that you have to now gather enough chips to buy the next card to access the high limits area. After quickly figuring out that the dice games are rigged, we head back into another staff only area to rig the games into our favor instead. After winning as much as we can, we head into the slots area, which begins with a forced fight. The first one I have to start using elemental breaks on. These nullify the resistance of their associated element, so this guy goes from blocking his reflected wind attack to being instantly killed by it after using wind break on him. Very handy, these abilities, which they will be getting us through a lot more fights now. I mean, look at the damage. In addition to Hifumi's Confidant now allowing us to swap in and out of party members during combat, it allows us to be ready for anything. In the main slot room, we find the second will seed and make our way to the big slots, which in order to hack we must find the red and green panels, which I already know the location of. I must say, this is my favourite palace of the entire game. It's a bit of a shame though we are kind of just rushing through it, but it is one where the challenge is just gone if you've played it before. Leaving the area, we have one more forced fight, which after an electric and wind break, we really easily clean up. Soon, enemies will be using break skills on us to cancel our reflex, but for now, we are fine. We are then forced to leave the palace to get Sei to see us in the courtroom in the real world in order to progress. So a quick trip later, we are back at trying to get 100,000 chips. By completing the House of Darkness, which is made a lot easier thanks to Third Eye, we have the required chips to enter us into the arena to beat enemies with only Joker, which is really easy considering the persona we now have. And that's it. After Akechi does his thing, that's all there is to it. A really quick infiltration, which is about to be followed by a really easy fight. This palace is quite good considering the hell I just went through. Now, because I can't send the calling card until the very last day, I now have a ton of free time on my hands. First, I level up Akechi to rank 8 and go through his fight. Kaguya blocks Curse and Bless, we reflect his physical moves, and we are guarding through his almighty attack, so this ends up being pretty easy. Haru gets some more attention, trying to get her maxed before the end of the game, just because she is a staple to this party. More crafting occurs as we want to be best prepared. I do a bit of Mishima, and it's not because I completely forgot about his Confidant and meant to do it earlier. I also do a bit of the Reporter, just for keeping security low, as I am trying to avoid fights, meaning I will get spotted all the time. I also start Shinya for his down shot ability, which I may need, but it's really more of an optional thing. Anyways, we finally get to the day of the boss fight. First part of this fight is very easy. She tells us to bet, we bet. We can't do anything to her or face her penalty. Literally, you're just waiting for the prompt to tell her she is cheating, how she is doing it, and then getting someone to shoot the glass lid. Nothing hard, just have someone to heal you. Second phase is where this fight gets interesting, and it really pays to have Hifumi's abilities here. She will roll some elemental affinity and will begin to attack with that associated skill. She also gains null against that element, meaning that we have to switch to the associated party member and get them to elemental break it. Having Taunting Aura makes this really easy as she'll always target Joker, so it's just a matter of breaking her affinities with whatever she's currently using. If she lands on Almighty, there's nothing you can really do to her, but fortunately she didn't for my attempt, so this ended up being really breezy as I chipped down her health. Kaguya is definitely the right persona for this run. The 1000 damage we are doing is just incredible. After about 10 minutes we are done with this fight and back to the start of the game. Now we can finally beat this guy while fitting the rules of the run. Anyways, you know how this plays out, so let's skip to the next palace. After being told that the game was rigged from the start, believing in the power of our opposing council, tricking Akechi and donning a cool hoodie, we are back from the dead to perform one last heist with some amazing tunes. After taking one turn to beat the first forced encounter, we scope out the joint to learn that we need to collect 5 letters of introduction to secure the route for the Cruiser of Pride. After leaving to infiltrate another day, we tell Kasumi not to join us. Real quick, I feel like when you're trying to stop an election from being rigged and then eventually having the world as you know it almost end, I would take all the help I could get. I think that's my biggest gripe with Royal. Kasumi should have been introduced into the party proper a palace earlier, because during the third semester it just feels kinda rushed. Anyways, I finish up Haru's confidant, who is best girl in this run, so I do romance her, and some other confidants just to clear them. I could have done this before or after the palace, it didn't particularly matter. Heading back in, our first letter is obtained by a politician in a restaurant, only accessible with a membership card presented to the Matra D. After using Third Eye to find its location, we witness a cutscene and fight him. He uses strong ice attacks, which he nulls, and that's a problem. I didn't realize this up to this fight, but the only party member who doesn't learn their corresponding elemental break skill is Yusuke, the ice user. This is a bit of an issue, so I reset myself and grab Jack Frost for his ice break ability, and well, yeah, that's a lot of damage. The second letter is from a former noble, but before we get into that, we have to deal with probably the second most annoying puzzle in the game, the rat puzzle. The rat puzzles are all about using these small vents you can only access as a rat to then open a door or flick a switch to continue. It's not too hard, it's just tedious having to walk around everywhere because this palace looks so similar all over. It can be hard to tell where you've already been. Again, I'm speeding through these puzzles, they are so annoying, but there is a will seed here, so we grab that. After some classic JRPG shenanigans, we fight the Shadow Royal who uses charm attacks. They aren't too big of a deal thanks to Detox and Psionics, which we break his immunity to with Haru. After a few reflex, we beat him and get his letter, only to be met with more rat puzzles on our way to the TV President. The TV President can be found in the Entertainment Hall. First, however, we get another force encounter against these heretic goats thanks to the Cleaner. They love their ice and fire attacks, so after a few reflections later, we are all fine. The TV President uses physical and electrical attacks, so after several minutes of reflecting, we finish the boss no problems. After the final rat puzzle, thank goodness for that, we find the second will seed and head to the side deck to grab the final will seed after a quick fight. The IT President is found after just a bit of jumping, and this fight is very tedious. He keeps summoning enemies and doesn't actually attack in any regard, which means we have to burn him down. Fortunately, burn damage scales to enemies' HP in this game, so we get him after about 10 minutes. The final fight is against the Cleaner, which we access by taking a vent to the engine room and beat an enemy. The Cleaner uses insta-kill curse skills and buff skills, but occasionally does use myriad slashes, so it does go down eventually. After this fight, we finally face Akechi. The mechanic for this fight is that his Berserk ability does two things to enemies. It gives them the ability to raise their attack for lowering their own defense, and forces them to physically attack, which makes this really easy. Akechi once more in this fight uses Curse and Bless damage, which we block, Almighty, which thankfully doesn't do too much damage, and Megaton Raid, which is where all of our reflections are actually happening. Phase 2 of this fight sees me being able to reflect Brave Blade and Negative Pile for massive damage, although he does put up physical barriers on himself which makes it impossible to deal reflective damage. He eventually keeps doing this before each attack after his health reaches a certain point, which means we have to use items to finish this fight. Fortunately, after this we are all but done, laying our eyes on the treasure and being able to leave, ready to take on the boss fight. So I begin to prepare for this fight and start streaming on the Persona Discord, mainly just complaining about how crazy this run has been. So I'm going to show you the highlights of this fight, but let me just tell you the plan beforehand. Shido's fight has 5 phases in total: Beast, Wings, Tomb, Samuel, and True Samuel. The first 3 are the first fight, changing through the phases when he reaches 2/3 health and 1/3 health respectively. Beast has physical and almighty damage, but he repels physical and guns, so we have to use items to do the damage needed. Wings perform all types of heavy magic, including almighty, but is only resistant to magic attacks, meaning we can reflect and kill him quite easily. Tomb does only almighty damage and has much more attack than the other 2 phases, meaning that we are going to be healing a ton and having to use items. Samuel does physical and almighty damage, but we can reflect his physical attacks to take down his 4,000 health pool, and True Samuel has pretty much every attack in the game. I'm not kidding, look at this wiki page of his moves, but he isn't resistant to anything. So in summary, we're using items on phases 1 and 3, for the whole fight we're taunting and healing as need be, and hopefully we should be good. So here are the best bits. So I've stocked up on a lot of magnetas to deal with that.
Oh, oof.
The other 4, I should be fine. We're gonna see.
All the DLCs to access my save file.
No! The wiki is wrong!
Oh no.
Alright, we're doing this the old-fashioned way. God, enjoy this for the next 20 minutes. Yeah, so I got a lot of things to just throw at people.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Oh, you're this far now?
Yep. You should have seen me stuck in Okuma for 4 days straight. That was not fun.
Walks his own attacks, but you repel back at him?
Yeah. So, like, because he has different phases in Royal, it's a little bit easier. We're gonna see. But like, banger tunes. I'm happy to listen to this for half an hour.
I've started doing this on hard. Are you still on normal or easy?
I've switched to merciless.
That's actually easier than hard.
Yeah, I made that realization a few days ago because I'm like, hang on, I'm reflecting everything. More damage is dealt to them. I realized that.
Okay, yeah, because in my opinion, for this type of run, coffee is one of the most important items because it.
Well, here's the thing. I'm running camera strap. That solves my SP problem in most fights because camera strap gives you 10 SP per turn in ambush and 5% of your health. So it's just a better SP adhesive. Ooh, damn! I had to use Morgana's withdraw already and endure already. That sucks.
Joker attacking because of the rage count as an attack?
Nope.
Yeah. Wait, it doesn't?
Nope, not in my run. If I'm forced to do it,
sorry.
doesn't count. Mainly because there are like fights where it's like Futaba's boss, for instance. If you want to kill Wakaba, you have to shoot her. Like that's a forced. I can't get out of that. Wow. Okay. Thanks. Remote play just freezed on me. On that note, for status effect skills like status ailments. My philosophy is that that's fine because it's not really doing damage. Yeah, so like despairing my enemies. I mean, I'm not really doing damage.
Really?
They're just. I'm doing mental damage. Exactly. Yeah. In reality, it's not on me. I just have to use Makoto's endure. Then this is not fun. Morgana's gone if he doesn't dodge this. Yeah, no, he charged up.
It lagged straight through his turn. So.
Oh, Morgana, you legend! What a Chad!
Fucking legend!
Let's go, mate! Need him for the whole. Oh, I didn't. Shut up!
Ah, come on.
Oh, never mind. We got it. I think that's the trigger. All right, now we're a gambling man. All right. So we're gonna nullify some resistances because he doesn't actually null anything in this form. He only is resistant against all's magic. So hopefully, he uses a magic that we're gonna kill the resistance to and just deal massive damage to. This is how you win. Yeah! 1,000 damage.
Am I just being dumb?
Because
I don't know any person named Samuel.
No. This boss, his name turns into Samuel after this. I am not shitting you.
I feel like you're fucking.
No, like you're gonna see it in a minute when I get through this. Uh-oh. This is the big attack I'm afraid of. Let's see how much damage this does. Now, not gonna do too much damage, but do I switch over to an endure persona just in case? No, we live on the edge here. Yeah. Look, this challenge run has changed the game completely for me. Nothing is how it should be.
What?
No one's attacking. I'm using items.
What?
No one's attacking. I'm doing a pacifist run, alright? Alright, see, you ready for this name change here? No. I want you to look at the screen right now. I want you to look at this man's name tag, alright? Not right now, but in a second. Samuel Shido.
His middle name is Samuel. What the fuck?
Have I not blown your mind? Everyone calls this. Yeah. This phase is called Samuel. That's what everyone calls it. My decision this time.
But here's a question for you: is it using an item that does damage attacking?
Shut up, otherwise this run's impossible. I've tried. I spent so long trying to get around that. You have to use
It
items.
should be Joker without Joker attacking.
No one's attacking. Attacking is illegal.
You're using items that do damage that is technically attacking.
Yeah, but like, if that were, if I was being really like about it, here's the thing. I would have been stuck on. If I had said like no items at all, I would still be stuck on Komoshida's palace and his cup, because you can't destroy it unless you do something to it.
The supporter?
Mm.
And nothing else?
Yeah. Look how fast we're taking him down though. This dude has 4,000 health. He's pretty damaged already actually.
Dude, the point is that using an item is still technically attacking if it does damage.
Look, do you want this video or not?
You're already at like hour 7. Ah, damn, that sucks.
So I'm doing a pretty good job conserving it,
Ah.
but you can tell it's already ran out.
The wiki is wrong, the wiki is wrong, they don't list that as an attack. I'm so mad at this.
According to you, the wiki's been wrong this whole time.
The
so, I mean,
wiki,
you can
look,
do that.
look, if I'm completely honest, the wiki's been wrong 3 times. It's been pretty good. But that's so annoying. Oh, okay, you know, like, honestly, this is nothing. We'll be fine. Oh, nice. Alright, True Samuel, last bit. Yeah.
I'm going. Have you planned to do the third semester yet?
Yes, I have. That's going to be painful. I'm not ready for that yet. I don't want to think about all the pain I'm going to go through. Ooh.
Oh my god.
Damn.
God.
Hey look, it's JoJo posing.
GG, alright.
No, I did not mean for that.
We did it!
He killed himself.
Yeah, baby! So we finally get through that slog. Admittedly, I kind of love this fight. It's really a culmination of what this run is all about. Coming up with a game plan, having to worry about resistances and reflects, committing yourself to items and keeping your party alive. It's the perfect fight for this run because it shows all the beauty and the struggle of what I've gone through getting up to this point. How it can be such a grind, but at other times it's the best thing. With Shido gone, we can finally kill the rest of my free time, crafting items and finishing up most party member confidants along with a few others. I ended up having a look at my finished confidants and I think I did pretty well with this run, having a fair few maxed. But all good things must come to their end, and finally we have to come to the day of reckoning and the depths of mementos. So as you can imagine, due to all the grinding I've been doing, my mementos is actually pretty up to date. So aside from a bit more grinding, going shopping, and accidentally recording myself watching the Grand Tour, I haven't got too much to show for it as I'd already reached the bottom. Inside the prison there is a bit of difficulty, however, a fair few forced encounters in this palace, but fortunately nothing too bad. Entering in, the first thing we do is challenge 2 metatons, which we immediately kill thanks to their high damaging physical attacks, but it will get worse from here, ending with our induction fight to the Holy Grail that I am not looking forward to. The puzzles here are all about finding a path to highlight all the tiles on the floor. Quite frankly, I think they're some of the most fun puzzles in the game and are quite a breeze once you get used to them. Some involve you to find an item to lower a platform in order to complete them, but again, really fun, not a hassle, so I enjoy this area. Eventually, however, we do reach the treasure at the bottom of Mementos. So before I reached this point, I crunched some numbers and did some calculations. The first Holy Grail fight, you have to deal about 2,000 damage in order to reach the proper fight, where you actually discover it's the Holy Grail. After that, in this battle, you just have to hit it once or twice so that it'll heal a few times, changing its color, and eventually get kicked into the Velvet Room. When you then fight the Holy Grail again, it has 10,000 HP, immediately followed by Yaldabaoth with 15,000 HP. Because both do a multi-damage only, we have to have enough items to beat them. This is why I've been crafting and purchasing damaging items whenever I can, because we need a lot. Fortunately, however, these fights don't have heals after we cut the veins, so we need at least 27,000 damage potential in her inventory. By the time we reached this fight, we had just above 30,000. That's 600 Molotovs worth, and I'm pretty happy we made it. So this first fight with the Holy Grail isn't too bad. Here with Morgana and Makoto, taunt with Joker, smash a few bottles at him. And unfortunately, I had all of my footage till the Holy Grail completely lost. Yeah, sorry about that. So let me give you the verbal rundown with some credited footage. Archangel, I used elemental breaks and reflected attacks. They weren't hard, they went down immediately thanks to their high damaging spells. They do have angels sometimes, and they do have access to Recamdria, but they are weak to curse. I had a ton of Ouija boards from my purchasing online, so I decided to use them all here with insta-kill. Right, let's jump to the final boss, which I decided to stream. It was the best and worst decision. Holy Grail first, no mechanics here after we cut the veins. We have to use 250 damaging items to kill the thing. He does some massive damage to my party with his almighty attacks, meaning our defense is up the whole time with Makoto. Morgana keeps the party healed nicely with his accuracy decreasing, helping a lot, and Haru is there for her high health, ability to cure ailments, and more importantly, so she can just deal damage each turn. I burned through a lot of healing and support items here, which wasn't ideal, but I thought they were necessary. Again, I had bought a ton from Takemi, mainly healing and revive alls before we did all this. So this whole phase is just me opening the item menu basically. Eventually we get it all done. Only took about 30 minutes, but the next phase is a lot longer. This, my friends, is Yaldabaoth, the god of control and the final boss of second semester. He has 15,000 HP, spawns different items the whole fight that attack and inflict different unique elements. It was at this point I gathered a bit of an audience, so here are the best bits from the 90-minute fight for the future of humanity, all without attacking. Do I taunting Aura Joker? Only if I have the defense for it, but that's the only problem. I could... You know what? I'm just gonna try it. We're just gonna see what happens. That's okay. That will get hit, yeah. What does the bell do? Let's see. Huh. Does the sword always do physical and wind damage? It might just be worth to keep them targeting him. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, that was me. I left my controller on my desk. I don't think he will, because the book only does magic attacks and I block everything. Except that. What was that? Okay, I need to stop doing that, Jack. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Okay. We're fine, but that was terrifying. Oh, hit me with that one. Yeah! Hey, we did damage to something else. Oh, a useful one, yes. She always gives me attack or charge, and it's the most useless thing. Yep. They can't, wait, does that make them use healing on enemies?
No, it's not gonna be fucking...
Oh god, I have PTSD from shit like that. Oh yes. This is really enhancing my experience right now. Yeah, I'm trying not to accidentally attack like I have so many times before, right? I reload the last save. Yeah, don't make me attack. That's what I'm trying to say.
Dude, attack. I want to see the suffering in action.
Oh god. Oh, question. Does that counter affect everything? Or is it just the book? I can't hurt the book.
Just the book.
Just the book? If you're lying to me, I will have to kill you. Just the book? No! It's not just the book! It's not just the book! Oh, it's just SP. Okay. Alright. Let's see if I can attack again now. Yeah, no, I can't. Alright. What that was experimentation. You know, guys, books are kind of cringe. Let's just defend. Uh-oh. Ooh. Oh, come on. This is just bullying. There's gonna be okay, look. I am planning out the video right now. There's a 5-minute section now dedicated towards the book. There's a 20-minute section dedicated to me bashing my head against the wall because of Akumura. I hated that boss fight. It was not fun.
Fuck you, my mental state is just fine. You don't need to worry about it. And then go back to talking about how Persona 5 is awesome and how sketchy this game is actually relatable stuff one time.
I really don't get why people like Akechi that much. Like, he's a cool character, sure. I sort of don't get it. Yeah. Uh-oh. Fuck the book, fuck the book. We'll get Morgana on that. Hang on. Let's just throw some more items at him first. This is all I've been doing for the last 100 hours. Say again.
How fucking long is this boss with this
Look, no, nothing seems tedious to me anymore, okay? Uh-oh, what does this do again? Ah, fuck the book. Oh yeah, I'm recording this, it's captioned the Discord audio. Obviously with your guys' permission, that is.
Hey, whoever's watching this shit, you're cool. Go love yourself.
Oh guys, look, my game defroze. Not the time! Ah!
Are you telling me it actually froze?
I'm telling you. No, I'm telling you the game froze because I lost connection. Hang on. Alright, let's see how much damage this does. He charges for 2 turns. I hate this. Okay, didn't know. Please let me be fine. Ah! It's alright though. I prepared for just this occasion. Where is my revivals? That was terrifying. Okay. Yo! Book dead! Yeah! The book is gone. Fuck that book.
This is how America's alive.
Yes!
Who would win? A god that literally controls society and has no way of stopping one item menu. What if you wanted to pop, but then God said,
What the fuck?
what the fuck?
Anyone just see that? Yeah. Just phase through. No! Put it back! No! Don't read books. Books are dumb. Get out of here. Leave.
I want to see how many people recognize that you're
Hmm. Not gonna lie, I ran out of time. Because I'm spending all my time making Molotov cocktails. Oh wait, we did it! We did it! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
Now we have. Pick a card.
You guys are really ruining the magic of this moment, aren't you?
Yeah. Honest.
I'm gonna make you go unpoggers.
I'm going to make you very feels bad, man.
When I just did that to it.
No more chaos control.
Chaos control!
Pew, power, pew.
Esther.
Please tell me you did not, what is called, level up, Maruki's fucking soul.
No, I leveled him up. Of course I leveled him up.
Did you finish it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hate my... Could be pretty funny.
Go up like by 10.
Do you just like suffering?
Yeah, pretty much.
Try it.
Alright, ready?
Huh.
We're doing this.
Ah shit, I can't wait to be done with Persona 5.
This, okay, new title for the video. This was a mistake. You couldn't. We had done it. Finally, it was all over. And you know what? I could have just ended the run there. But we had come this far, and as you can see, this video still has a bit longer to go. We may as well go all the way. During this run, I'd been working on ranking up Maruki to level 9 in the background. I wanted to finish 3rd semester and challenge Adam Cadmon in my no attack run, mainly because I'm insane. At any rate, it's time for the center of Melancholy, and to finish this game once and for all. And so we find ourselves back in the real world, although things aren't as they seem. New Year's Day rolls around and many odd occurrences come up. A strange boy and a woman appears in LeBlanc, Kasumi's father has this to say, and a giant observatory can be seen in Tokyo, which we infiltrate with Akechi and Kasumi. This palace features so many elemental breaking enemies, which is why we leveled up Haru so much, as we are still able to use her barrier reflex along with ointment, but we will see a lot more of this later. Watching a video of Kasumi's father over the body of her sister, we head into the test track room to our first main problem of this infiltration. With these enemies blocking any attacks we can reflect, and us not having any other party members to break their immunities, we have to use items to beat these enemies, chipping away their health with burn. After this fight, we finally reach and discover this palace's ruler, Maruki, and we get the big plot twist of the 3rd semester. Sumire, in denial of this revelation, pleads for Maruki to turn her back into Kasumi. Maruki gives us 1 week to see the benefits of his new reality and kicks us out of his palace. So we interact with all of our friends, hinting that this reality isn't as it seems, only for me and Akechi to end up infiltrating the palace anyway. After talking to Maruki, Sumire begins to attack us. Her bless skills are blocked and her physical attacks are quickly reflected. After Maruki uses his actualization on Sumire's persona, the fight becomes a lot harder. Sundryon will use Drain every second turn of hers she is damaged, killing one of Maruki's summons and healing for 600 health. Because Maruki will keep summoning these enemies back, we are practically unable to beat this fight. But fortunately, just in time, our teammates storm into the palace, ready to help us. So we can reflect Sundryon's physical attacks, however she does block bless attacks, meaning that's off the table completely. Fortunately, we have stocked up on a ton of physical ointment which we protect the party with, meaning when Vorpal Blade does go off, we deal some crazy damage. A lot of ointment later, Sundryon eventually goes down as we outdamage her healing. Sumire comes with us as we escape the palace to prepare for infiltration. Next day, the whole party has finally assembled proper. Starting off with a scripted fight and Sumire's introduction, we have to beat these 5 enemies here. It was easy. We move on to the ID card fight we need to progress. Dionysus and Two-Horned Beast here, which after performing some elemental breaks and reflexes, quite relaxed as this guy does a lot of damage that we just repel to his face. Heading into the employee-only area, we finally see the first instance of enemies screwing us over with the fanfare fight. This guy knows Nuke Break, and considering he only knows Nuke and physical skills, which he is immune to, we can't actually beat him as he cancels our reflection, so I am praying we don't run into him in a forced fight at any point. Our final fight in this first infiltration is in the monitoring room. That poses a bit of a problem as one of these enemies is immune to ice and can cast magic barriers. The other can be defeated just by reflecting back their physical and gun attacks, although reviewing the footage it was clear I got bored of waiting for these guys to perform these attacks and just decided to use Molotovs. After this, our progress is blocked until we go back into Mementos and finish the final area, so next day I immediately go to do that. Fortunately, I'm high enough level to end these fights immediately with Ryuji's insta-kill, and I don't care too much for stamps in this run, so half an hour later we are at the bottom already and ready to continue on with the main palace, although I do take another half an hour to grind for materials, the last time we'll be doing so. I also cleaned up a few last mementos requests and finished the day. So now we have the option to gain 3rd semester abilities for any maxed out party members. We do have to wait till they're available, and quite honestly most skills we unlock are quite useless in this run, but the important ones are Haru and Makoto. Makoto has checkmate and all enemy debilitate, which will be in handy in the final fight of this run for just surviving some of the almighty attacks. And Haru has life ball, which places both a physical and magical barrier around all party members, which is crazy good in normal gameplay just because of its efficiency. It's only 90 SP, but in this run it's just amazing considering its nature. There was also Yusuke, which I completely forgot at this point, but he'll be coming in later. He has an all party heat riser ability, which is just amazing. With their abilities unlocked, we head back into Maruki's palace for the final infiltration before his fight. By interacting with the console and mementos, our path is freed and we can access the rest of the palace, where we begin to get Maruki's backstory and motivations behind his action to unlock these password doors. We also get his first will seed. His Ring of Sorrow is actually quite useful in this palace as it downs enemies without damaging, but quite frankly there was no need for it as I could reach the end pretty easily in this one and there wasn't any persona I particularly wanted. The research ward is the next location, and it's a particularly confusing one. I get a bit lost in this section all the time, forgetting where I've gone already, but eventually I find my way through it, grabbing the will seed and the second videotape to unlock the next password door. I must admit, I really love Maruki's palace. It's got such a different feel to the rest of the game. Unlike the other characters, you really got to know him and his goals aren't bad or anything. The palace is very frightening and just artificial and unsettling. It's an amazing place. It's just a shame that it's a bit too easy. Normal playthroughs you can breeze through this palace as enemies just can't stand up against you and your abilities. The final fight against Maruki in my original playthrough was a bit of a letdown just because we came off the high that was Yagurboth. But I suppose it's more about story than anything and it does have a very compelling narrative to back it up the whole way through. But I digress. The exam room is up next, which asks us questions about how we would respond to different situations, and again, from a storytelling standpoint, it's so genius. It educates you on how Maruki sees the world. The whole gimmick here is that just because we were in Maruki's palace, the correct answers are ones that he would really choose, with incorrect answers leading you into fights. And we learn that Maruki doesn't hate us. He even thinks what we're doing is justified, as we see in the last question where the correct response is stealing people's hearts. At any rate, the area itself is quite easy as I know where I'm heading, I know all the answers already, so we quickly find ourselves at the Twilight Corridor. Now, you probably expect me to say that I hate this puzzle. I actually quite like it. It's a good challenge, and in my opinion it's not as confusing as Okumura's palace, mainly because my ape brain can handle colours better than it can Greek letters, which is worrying considering I'm a shit artist but a decent mathematician. Personal qualifications aside, we get through this all and find the final will seed, beat the final forced fight, and secure the infiltration route for the final time. So now we prepare. Alright, Maruki's boss fight has 4 phases, the last of which is scripted, so no worries about that one. Azathoth presents a unique problem. He has a passive trait, the only boss in the game to do so. Azathoth experiences greatly reduced damage done to him for every tentacle still up. Now, I had originally assumed that I was just going to have to item him down, but a friend that we've already seen on Discord before mentioned that I should have a look at how speedrunners handle this boss fight. So I loaded up the first video I could find and wow, the trait doesn't apply on reflect damage. Exactly what I need for this run. So that was perfect and really easy to implement with Haru on my team and Kaguya as my persona. Maruki's third phase has 3000 HP and involves us having to actually kill him. Throughout it, he uses Revitalized Soul, which deals 300 damage to all party members and heals him for the same amount he attacks for. He also has Origin Light and Grand Palm as all and single target attacks as well. So I went back to the speedrunner to see what he did. I found out that if you use Limelights on a character on this fight, it makes him exclusively use Grand Palm on that character, making him not use his lifesteal attack. Now, I could have probably achieved the same thing with just taunting Aura alone, but I didn't want to take the chance, so in the 3 weeks I had prepping for this fight, I crafted Limelights and some other items, finished up Kasumi's Confidant, got Yusuke's ultimate ability, that's the Heat Riser for your whole party, and increased Joker's max HP to survive Grand Palm attacks. So, after killing time and finally getting everything we needed to do done, we were finally at the Day of Fate and headed to Eden. After getting the cardio workout of our lives, we confronted Maruki and began the fight. Serious? That's the hard bit over. Alright. And I failed the run. And that was it. Interestingly enough, everyone in the Discord had told me that this fight was going to be stupidly hard in my run, if not impossible. It turned out to be really easy, a bit anticlimactically, but a nice way to end the run and all my suffering. All that was left was to finish the game and say goodbye to all of our companions and confidants, only 3 of which were actually vital in hindsight. Well, what left do I have to say? This run was a challenge, a ridiculous one that I didn't think I would complete at many points during it, but I've done it and I've got the save file to prove it now. Please, my lord, don't think of doing this for yourself. Be happy with the knowledge that someone else has done it and leave it at that. Persona 5 Royal is probably tied for my favorite RPG of all time next to Shin Megami Tensei 4, and I absolutely love playing this game with this rule set, forcing me to think of new ways and approaches to battles in this game I had played a million times before. I hope you did all enjoy my suffering, so a massive thank you for reaching the end of this video and supporting me. I want to do something like this again, so please do be sure to stick around.
From